Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be in the world. We're all suitably tired, and I hope you are as well watching at home, because we'd hate to catch something from you. Well, I'm definitely going to disrobe now. Hello, everybody. Well, what a week. What a week, what a week, what a week. Where do we start? What do we say? What do we do? I don't really know. Where shall we start? Who wants to start?
Nobody wants to start. Oh no! Look at this. This is $1,000 worth of toilet paper around here. Look at that.
Hey,
money is no object.
$1,000 a sheet, mate. Although we haven't had down here in South Africa, bar a couple of shops in big cities, that there hasn't been panic, and I half think you're able to panic and buy stuff if you have a huge disposable income. If you don't have a huge disposable income, you cannot panic buy. And also the washing hands thing is great, and of course we must all do that, but most of the population here doesn't have fresh water and water that's on hand to wash hands. And the idea of buying hand sanitizers is absolutely insanity to a lot of people, because that's your money for food. So it's everything that's going on, that's lovely first world luxury ways of being able to do things. You lucky people. That's my small rant over. Who else wants to pick that one up?
Something very interesting on this is, have you seen the TED talk from Bill Gates from 2014? And it's very interesting. He basically predicts today, or this situation we're in 6 years ago, and it's interesting. You hear all of these people over the years saying all it takes is this, and we've landed in this situation, and it is a bit mad over here in the UK. I'm not sure how bad it is with James. We are suffering issues. That we have. You cannot go out and buy what you want. That you can't even go out and buy UHT milk. You can't buy toilet paper, you can't buy cereal in certain places. It is gone to madness.
So all the basic staples of life, your fancy cereals and all the stuff
you don't get over there in Africa, Gary.
Toilet paper and Weetabix or whatever.
Let me plug my channel for a moment. If you watch my channel a little later today, you'll see me going to the supermarket and buying a dozen eggs. Won't that be riveting?
Do you know what? That's brilliant. It is interesting. Eggs have all sold out, but they don't keep. So why are you buying eggs? You only get 2 weeks on eggs.
Shop vicariously through me, yes. And I even marveled at the halls, the walls lined with rolls of toilet paper, excess toilet paper spilling out into the aisles, and people just going about their everyday business. New Zealand hasn't been hit by all the lockdowns yet. It'll probably happen, but hasn't happened yet. So, and there were even people doing exercises on the side of the road, like Tai Chi stuff by the lake. It's just like situation totally normal. It's amazing. So, yeah, if you're all locked down and grumpy and upset, just watch my video. It'll lift your mood.
It is. What's interesting in this, actually, if you look at the business aspect, is what will end happen with the drone industry in this. And swinging it back around into us, it's you've already had people like Philip Bloom, some big photographers, already saying their entire order book is cancelled. And when you've got guys in the photography industry as established as that saying stuff like this, where does the standard drone operator operate and carry on? And I saw a funny post by one of the guys who does like to go in jest on this stuff on Facebook, and one of them was offering images of funeral aerial imagery on funerals, and it was okay, and it is in jest, but where are people going to end up? Because a lot of people are about to lose their jobs. That's a fact. And is something like aerial images, the housing market is probably going to plummet for a number of years, so you're going to lose all of that work. And is aerial imagery and aerial photography going to be important for the next 12 months? And how can operators continue to earn a living? It's an interesting point.
That goes right across the economy, though, doesn't it? Because every aspect of the economy is going to be in recession. We're going back to subsistence type operation. So anyone that's providing any service that is an absolutely a necessity to life is going to find themselves not earning the same sort of money. But did you see in Italy, they were using a drone with a loudspeaker to tell people, get off the streets, but they were just line of sight. So why didn't they just stick the speakers on the top of a car and drive down the road and save themselves the effort?
yeah, you can understand. You got the Mavic 2 Enterprise, which has that function built in. I don't think anyone else does, do they? There's none of the others have that out the box. But there's nowhere in the UK
Like
that would.
The totalitarian state upgrade kit.
It's coming in handy now. It's coming in handy now. Everyone looked back at that at the time and went, "Oh, not sure about that." Now people aren't laughing no more. I think I'd have taken a bit of communism right now as well, to be honest, the way it's going.
The Chinese one sprays you with bleach and takes your corneas at the same time. It's really good.
but no, I don't see in the UK how. Can drones be used to help people? Yes. Okay, that's a fact. We're not going to see, though, the same level of impact you've seen in China, for instance, where they've been able to send them out to remote areas and monitor people and tell them to get in and things like that. So I don't think we'll see that same level in the UK. But it's going to be interesting to see what people can do. I haven't seen bog roll delivered by drone yet. Perhaps that is something that we need to get the first video up.
Tangling the props would be terrible. There'd be so much potential for catastrophe. But I've had a question asked by a number of people now, which is basically, with all the airlines shutting down and aviation growing to a halt, does that mean we can fly outside the rules because it'll be safe?
Yeah, I'm heading straight for Gatwick.
It's a popular place. I just put a link up. I had a little ranty piece I put up, and that's exactly my sort of thinking really, is that we should have an adaptive sky and just forget drones and manned aircraft in that sort of threatening way. But when there's a genuine emergency in a modern sky, we ought to be able to flip a switch and get rid of controlled airspace and other stuff, and letting an ambulance go through, let aircraft that need to fly go through, and everything else can bog off. And it's kind of happening anyway, or it should be happening. So I hopefully, after all this madness has died down, unfortunately what I think has happened is everyone will forget it quickly and we'll go back to being super duper consumerists again. But it would be nice if we stopped and thought and rethought a load of systems in modern life. I'd like to think and hope that families will reconnect and people will communicate more after they've killed the weakest ones out first, because families people are gonna go nuts if they could. I think we've lost the social skills of going and playing the piano in the village hall and arriving.
Is that a bit of social engineering you're talking about there, Carrie, after we've wiped out the weakest?
I'm officially one of the vulnerable. Be careful.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a bit harsh. I don't think it's true, but it's a bit harsh. But no, I think, yeah, as Bruce said, we're going to see a closing down of many industries. I'd be interested to see what the manufacturers do. Autel are literally shipping a drone today.
He's gone.
He's gone. Yeah, he's James is dead. James, we've lost James. He was a lovely guy. Yeah. Oh no, he's not dead yet. He's back. He's back. It's all terrible. Will DJI do anything in the next 6 months?
Well, they're supposed to, aren't they? Well, but what would be the point if no one can go to the shop to buy it? No one can deliver it.
If you've got plans in place, you would be hitting the big red stop button right now, wouldn't you? Now, the reality is all this hardware has been in production for months. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. If anyone releases, generally there's at least a month or so pipeline for hardware. Well, there should be in most of these big ones. But who knows?
What's it they're all going on about? They're going on about the new size. We spoke about that last week briefly, in a new size of.
There's a Mavic which is believed to have been, and we don't really know. No one knows what it is. All the sites are saying it's a Mavic Air replacement. I don't think it is. I think it's a stopgap filler. So you might see something like that come out. You might see something that really isn't looking to pry a lot of money out of people. But we're in a situation where people are losing their jobs. You've got Virgin, BA are all saying people are going to have to take 8 weeks unpaid leave. There's going to be no money for drones. There's going to be no money for toys.
Yeah. This your disposable income side of things. Yes, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, you're right.
I've got a fairly well stable job, but even I've looked at this and gone, okay, my industry happens to be okay, but what would I do in 3 months' time if things did go particularly downhill? And I think everyone is at risk right now, and I certainly won't be jumping to spend any money on any lovely new shiny products right now. So it's going to be
But on the upside, there'll be a lot of really cheap drones on the market, people getting out of the business and things. Those who are cashed up and in a good position can make a fortune. And it's always the case, isn't it? It's the people who can least leverage the situation will be the big losers. The rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer. That's the way the world works these days.
Hooray, hooray for the norms.
It's just a shame I'm on the wrong side of the fence.
Yeah, I always have to worry every time.
Like me is in the comments. He's also a STEM teacher. The chaos it caused yesterday at school. The school shut. All schools in South Africa are shut now. Every single last one. And it wasn't just the act of shutting the schools. It was the fact that we have children from all over Africa come to our school, and the borders being shut. So parents were in the air as borders were being shut to come and get children. So the sort of just the act of, they could have said, we're going to shut the borders in next Thursday at 4:00. Everybody move around. But it, move the tables and chairs around, go. But they didn't. The borders were closing as parents were coming, and well, what the heck do you do? So we might end up with a few children staying by us for however long it takes, and that's a terrible situation that could have been resolved with a little bit more.
Easily avoided. Why are you closing borders to split families? That's not the idea of this. The idea of this is to prevent spreading, not, we're not in the midst of World War II or anything like that. We're not separating off a country.
If you look at this on a positive note, like my local drug dealer's stopped dealing drugs now, and he's now doing bottles of hand cleansing gel. He's switched. It's much more profitable apparently.
Do not snort the Dettol. Do not snort the Dettol. I can tell you, it's no fun.
I'm going to be selling this by the milliliter IPA. So I'm going to be selling isopropyl alcohol by the millimeter.
You do realise that IPA isn't the best way to deal with this virus. It's got a lipid around it. You want soap. You actually want soap that breaks down the lipid barrier around the virus. IPA just washes it away.
I can foam it up, Bruce. I can foam it up. I'll do a custom mix.
One of the worst things about IPA is it became the beer of choice for hipsters. I had a beer and drank IPAs before they were a hipster thing, and now I'm embarrassed to drink IPA because that, of course, was a beer made for going around to India when they went around the bottom of Africa to get to India. So IPA has been very popular here before it was a flipping hipster beer. But anyway, have I got the wrong IPA?
Yes.
Not India Pale Ale then. No. Okay.
It is interesting. From a drone point of view, I think it's going to be a quiet few news months, that's for sure, from the sake of new products. But on the flip side of it, there's lots of opportunities as well.
Oh, you've got the TV on in the background, I think, Louis.
It's Louis.
He's had his hair cut, hasn't he?
He's watching pornography again.
He's got his head on upside down today. What's going on?
Is he? He's in the wrong
I'm watching Borisian.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, yeah, we don't
call him Boris anymore. He's now known as Churchill.
What, the dog? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's insurance adverts. Saying Dr. John Campbell is particularly worried about Africa due to the ratio of doctors to population. Absolutely. And as I've said at the top of the show, lack of fresh water, when hand sanitizers cost more money than the food you eat in a month anyway, huge level of AIDS, and more worryingly TB. So if it gets into the population properly here. But breaking news just before we started, it is officially an emergency here because is this live now? No, we're live tomorrow. So it'll be live tomorrow. What was I going to say? Yeah, it really has hit the fan here because a Dutch tourist has been confirmed having it, and he was touring the wine region. So they've had to shut the wine region in South Africa. So I firmly predict, with all of you watching this, there'll be a run on South African wine tomorrow morning if you enjoy it.
Have you got shares in a South African wine by any chance, Gary, or anything?
I might as well have. No, no. It's just but I think New Zealand's equally affected, but the loss of tourism income is enormous.
Yeah,
Since you started 10 hours ago,
crippling.
does it?
Yeah, it's crippling the whole industry here. I mean, there's people not laid off, but the government's announced a multi-billion-dollar economic support package for the tourism industry and other businesses, basically up to $500 and something a week wage subsidy for businesses that are affected by, and that's per employee, businesses that are basically put out of business by this whole thing. So that's a huge amount of money that they're going to put into the economy to keep it ticking over. And other countries are doing the same thing. They've got these aid packages, so they're having to borrow heavily to fund these packages. What I want to know is, where are they borrowing from? If all these countries are in the same position, having to borrow money to prop up their economies, who's the person with the large bank account that's busy handing out the money?
It's a printer. It's called a
printer. But the thing is, yeah, there will be a huge surge in inflation once this goes away, because it's the only way they'll be able to erase the debt that's been incurred through all this borrowing.
Well, the interesting thing is so we were talking about, because Ash is getting angry with us because we're talking about evening Ash, we're talking about toilet rolls and things. The borrowing from the banks, it's reliable to the end of the banks, and they will be the end of us. We've returned to 2008 in the drone world, because a lot of the press release sites are just pages and pages of drone forecasts, drone this due to be whatever by this, that, the other, all those forecast things, and it had moved away from that. There was the occasional story in between all the forecasts and reports you could buy. So it has definitely dropped out the number of press releases and things coming out.
Do we think this will restart it all then? When we all go back, this is like ground zero again, isn't it? They get to start afresh now and say, oh, the drone industry will be coming in 5 years, and because this is to reset the economy, isn't it? So,
well, what's quite interesting is we've seen, about the future flight competition, which is literally about to kick off. The tender's about to come out in about 3 weeks' time. And so what's everyone doing at the moment? They're going out there, they're trying to go to loads of meetings to go and create consortia, and then they're trying to go and get investment from people. And what is the best thing to happen right now? A virus which stops you from meeting people and prevents investors from investing in businesses. So it's pretty good timing for the future flight competition, which but I think those who have strong ideas and visions will succeed. It might knock out a few of the slightly more borderline ideas, I think.
It'll be interesting. Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, I think maybe it means stuff will be looked at a little bit harder or more properly, because if it's going to make a difference, it's got to make a difference now. So less flim flam will get through. I hope. Maybe that's naive. That's probably naive.
What will be interesting as well is if the FAA decide to dump this all through whilst all this is going on in the US.
Somebody told me that the talks are still continuing, so I think they will exactly do that. Oh, look over here, and get everything run through whilst it's all happening.
Yeah, it would make a very good time in a month just to dump it all through with hardly anyone noticing as the world's in chaos. And suddenly, sorry, it's all done and dusted now. Thank you very much. It's going to be interesting to see where the UK ends up in this, because obviously we thought we were sorted and now we're not, and we don't really know what's going on, and there's lots of rumours, and there's, I'm seeing the first few guys come out of the GVC this week. You've seen some pictures from some of the NQEs on sites, and people have given their money over and they're coming out and they've got a qualification that technically doesn't exist yet, or at least it doesn't have.
You have that before it's in place.
It's interesting. I don't know how that's a possibility. I don't know if you know more on this, James, than I do.
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of a scoop, which I'll come into in a minute. But the GVC basically is just a requirement for pilot competency. Oh, I've scared off Bruce.
Yeah.
I said the naughty word EASA, I think, and it scared him off. But yeah, so basically the GVC is just a pilot competency. Oh, we've got rid of Louis as well. Wow. I won't say it a third time. Otherwise, it would just be me and you, Gary. So the GVC is it's just a pilot competency requirement. So it's not people NQEs have already gone through, have been converted to RAEs.
Yes.
Are able to teach that now. So there are a few NQEs who have gone through that conversion. So they've been they've been assessed to be able to be competent in delivering a GVC course. Now, although that GVC isn't operational yet, you can't use it as yet. You can still do the course. And so come the 1st of July, once the new regulations come into force, which is a technical term, when they come into force, they will that GVC will become operational. And so they'll be able to use that, and it kind of makes sense that people would go down that route, because the GVC is kind of like an extension of the NQE certificate of competency, or the NQE recommendation, however you want.
It doesn't give him any more permissions than we've got today, does it?
Well, this is where it starts getting a bit more complicated, because what the GVC does is it gives you the ability to then add on modules.
Yes.
So the PFCO at the moment, or I always call it PFCO. That's the wrong term. The NQE recommendation.
Okay.
Which is the certificate of competency you get when you go through an NQE course.
Yes.
You can't add on to that. That gives you if you send that in with your ops manual, you get a permission for commercial operation, or PFCO.
Yeah.
If you want to then fly, say, extended visual line of sight, then you need to go through what's currently called an operational safety case procedure to go and get an exemption or an exemption permission from the CAA to go and allow you to fly extended visual line of sight. Now, the main difference here is that under the GVC, you can go through what they call a predefined risk assessment, which is essentially like an operational safety case, except that the CAA have done the risk assessment for you.
Yes.
So you only have to really do your volumes 1 and 2, which is your procedures and your technical information about your aircraft. And as long as you meet the requirements of their risk assessment, which has a certain set of criteria, one of those criteria is that you've done module 1 training, which is an add-on to the GVC. You can then do extended visual line of sight operations out to 2 kilometers. So it simplifies the process for these add-ons using the predefined risk assessments.
Okay.
We've got module 1 already, which is extended visual line of sight. Don't know what module 2 is likely to be yet, but there's going to be some extra modules which will provide some of these. But it will basically make the operational safety case procedure a little bit more easy, and mean that people will be focusing on the more difficult operational safety cases rather than the more predefined easy safety cases which are currently enforced. So that's really the deal there. But the CAA, I've got a bit of a scoop here. So the CAA are about to publish their CAP 1789 update. I can't give you a definitive date, but my guess is probably some point next week. I don't know what date that will be because it has to go through certain checks and all the rest of it. But yeah, we're very close now to seeing the update. So keep your eyes peeled. There may be 1 or 2 things within that people may be interested in and may want to pay special attention to. Yeah, that's really where the EASA is at right now. But that CAP 1789 actually hopefully will clear up some of the questions that people have got regarding the new regulations, which frankly are quite complex for the average operator.
Okay, James, but here's 2 things in this. I'm gonna hit you with 2 different angles. Okay, number 1, how is any cases any different to us adding night ops when we were given the ability to? Because we were given the ability to add night ops and increase our flight from 7 kilos to 20 kilos. Those of us who'd done the 7 kilo ticket, and all again we had to do was comply with what they felt was correct procedures, safety procedures. There's nothing different in the extended visual line of sight. Okay, more procedures. I'm not going to say it's as easy, but the basics of this are to gain night ops. All we had to do was write additional procedures, and we gained a bolt on, and that is for all intents and purposes what they're doing with the GVC. But further to that, what is different in the GVC that isn't in the recommendation from the NQEs? And what really is bugging me in this is why permission holders currently, it's all gone orange.
I don't like that black background.
Oh, sorry. Why
change.
cannot permission holders be upgraded to a GVC? What is so different that someone who has been a commercial operator for 5 years, who's written his own manual, who's had his manual written, he's been operating 100% safely, cannot update himself to comply with what the GVC requires? Because I've seen nothing at this point that makes this difficult.
So you're quite right. In terms of flying skills, you're quite right. I think the main differences are that we are no longer operating under, Cap 722, Cap 393. We're transitioning over to EASA regulations. So in terms of a lot of the principles, terminology, rules that exist within EASA, that's all covered within the GVC. So anyone who's gone through the NQE recommendation isn't going to know all of that kind of material. There are some new, without going through the list and spilling them off one by one, that's really the main difference there. So there's gaps in the knowledge from a regulatory perspective and some of the rules that are implemented. You've got things like the one-to-one rule, which is coming in. There's obviously the difference between what open category, specific category operations are, all of these kinds of aspects. They need to be taught to the operator. But
all of these can be learned, James. We can, we're not idiots. Commercial operators have been operating commercially. Saying this stuff we don't know. No, we don't. But what is to say, if you wanted to upgrade to a GVC, here is what you would be required to comply with and prove compliance. People are not asked to retake their driving test every time the highway code book is updated.
But is that necessarily the best example to compare it to?
More car accidents every minute than there's ever been drone accidents, yet we don't make people do it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that the approach to road safety and driving licenses is necessarily the best approach, but it's the approach that we've currently got. So I don't think we want to be having the same number of accidents as cars. Because that probably wouldn't look good on our industry. Yes, aviation I think is held to much higher standards. Is that a good thing? Well, I think yes, but surely shouldn't you level up like cars?
But is it held to higher standards?
Is general aviation really operating at a higher standard than a lot of drone operators?
And I'd even argue our drone operators.
A guy that goes past here weekly now below my bloody house. Can we really say that? We can say commercial aviation to a degree, airline aviation. Let's take the helicopter industry in America and the way that they dodge around all their special VFR flying rules, and you end up putting a helicopter with famous people into the ground. Can we really say that general aviation and light commercial aviation is run to a very high standard?
And further to that, before you answer, James, one thing I just want to bolt onto that is sorry, I want to get my nail in as well, the coffin. We take people who have never been a commercial operator and put them through a 2-day course and a short flight test, and we deem them commercial operators. So we are going to be doing that with the new test as well, with the GVC, a couple of days. These are people who enter this potentially with zero knowledge and have the capability of coming out the other side passed. We're now talking commercial operators who have been doing this for 5-6 years, could look at this, and I just don't see, I understand there are differences, but I don't see the barriers that are being put in place to existing commercial operators. I just don't see why they are there.
Yeah, and I think it's a valid point, and I don't think we're going to be able to change that. But what I do think is what does appear to be happening is that certain NQEs, or what's now going to be called RAEs, are offering upgrade courses. So you only actually have to do the bits that essentially you haven't done through the NQE certificate competency. So it might be a day long course rather than a 2-day course. I don't know what that looks like, and I'm sure if we speak to an NQE, they'll be able to, or an RAE, we'll be able to get some answers from them. But that upgrade course will then put you into that GVC requirement. So the other thing which I think is important is actually the GVC is going to it will have to be renewed every 5 years. So it's not going to be a one-off license that you do. You're going to have to keep renewing it every 5 years. And so anyone with a PFCO who's gone through the certificate competency with an NQE, they will at some point within, I think they said 2023 roughly, within the next 3 years, will have to convert over to the GVC.
Has that now been converted? That has now been confirmed, has it? That they will.
They haven't got an exact date for it yet, but I think they're looking at about a 3-year timeline for that,
which is expected.
Yeah. So that will shift everyone across onto that mechanism.
So in this new cap or AOC, I can't remember which one you said it was. What is it? Does it speak to EASA exactly? Is that what we're going to hear from this?
Well, let's just remember where we're at the moment. Under the current, and I don't know, you probably go and get demonetized after this, Gary, but because of the Brexit is it transitional agreement or whatever they call it, because of that, we basically still have to adhere to EASA regulation until the 1st of January next year, and legally, the CAA are required to basically make the UK follow that regulation. Yeah, we have to adopt that regulation. And so these rules are purely EU regulations. They're not CAA regulations. The CAA are simply converting those regulations into plain text to try and make it easier for us to digest. And they've done a good job. I'm sure there's people out there who say they could do better, but you can always do better. But they've made them a lot more palatable than they are in their raw format. So that's really the situation at the moment. However, I'm sure you saw Grant Chapp's message a week or two ago, where he discussed that the UK will not be following EASA regulations.
Yeah.
Now that hasn't been confirmed in law yet, and we don't know whether that is a political statement or whether that's an actual real statement as to what's going to happen. But there are signs that we're going to see some form of divergence. The CAA are already saying that we're not going to follow the LUC, which is the Light Unmanned Operator Certificate or something like that. And we're not going to follow the standard scenarios. So the standard scenarios are you meet these 150 requirements and then you can basically just get on with it and do what you want. But those 150 requirements basically mean they're useless. The standard scenario is pretty much useless. So actually, from what I've seen from the standard scenarios, they're not, forget them. PDRA is much better. Yes, you have to send in your documentation to the CAA and they rubber stamp it for you. But the standard scenario is basically, well, I just send a bit of paper in and I can operate without the rubber stamp. So it seems to be, I think the CAA have taken quite a good, they've done what they can with the current regulation. But the key point here is that depending on what happens over the next, 9 months, come the 1st of January, we may either have to align or we have the option to sort of start diverging away from that. So I think people will have mixed opinions on that. I think we do want at least a good, very close alignment with it, but potentially some divergence in particular areas would probably be good, as long as that doesn't compromise the UK industry. So I think some level of control is good.
We wouldn't want them to align with the American remote ID requirements. And MB Moore, I wouldn't worry too much about urban air mobility in the next 30 years. 40, 50 or 100 years even. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It depends how you define it. It depends how you define it, James. Deliveries, yes. E-hang flying taxis, no. And once we get rid of general aviation and airliners out of our rightful airspace for model aircraft, gliders, balloons, hang gliders, paragliders, and delivery services, they can all stay, but the rest can be on their way.
The one problem I see with urban mobility is that there is no, if you're running a multi-role aircraft, there is no safety, there's no fallback if something goes wrong. So I would expect that they would, required of drones in some situations, at the very least have a ballistic recovery chute, and they won't operate from 400 feet or below. So they're going to have to fly well above 400 feet to meet the safety requirements. That's just my prediction.
Choppers don't, do they? So
no, but they can auto rotate.
Yeah.
They can auto rotate, and but James, so how about a remote ID? If a remote ID was to be picked up, because the European system, I think we all agree, seems pretty fair at the moment with what they're proposing for model aircraft.
Implementation is currently. Its requirements and implementation is currently, yes.
Yeah, so I think basically the period seems to be, we've got this transitionary period for the next 18 months from July up until January 2022, and there will be flexibility on remote ID up until that point. When we get to January 2022, pretty much all aircraft, apart from if you're flying within the A3 category, I think it is, which is basically you have to remain 150 meters away from everyone. I think so. I don't quote me on that. I need to double check that. But I think pretty much all drones will have to have remote ID. Now, we're currently in a situation where no drones have remote ID. So that does leave some questions that need to be answered in how that's going to happen. Is everyone going to have to buy new drones? Can this kind of technology be retrofitted? Can this be done via software updates? There's all of these questions which need to be answered, but I think in general remote ID could be good for us in some respects, because it may give us some extra privileges that we don't have right now. I think there is a nervousness around BV loss and some other use cases which without remote ID and when you look at remote ID, there's also, it kind of merges quite closely with electronic conspicuity. Electronic conspicuity is basically like, this is who I am, this is where I am. Remote ID is basically doing the same thing. So there is a bit of crossover between the two.
Without the interface to other aircraft that might see it, whereas remote conspicuity, there's a chance that other aircraft will see it, which then brings us back round to the fact that light aircraft, and the glider boys are ahead of the game. They're really good at their electronic conspicuity. You know what I'm trying to say, because they don't want to hit each other. And funnily enough, the microlight guys, the paraglider guys, they're much better at it. But those flipping 1950s Cessnas, they get on down the road.
Well, in a world which is all interconnected, where you've got UTM providers all interconnected, you've got electronic conspicuity providers all interconnected, you've got ground infrastructure, you've got remote ID, it's all interconnected using a fair, trusted, secure system. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But a system,
Bruce chain again.
a system where we need to reach a world. We need to digitize aviation, because at the moment, there was a really good article actually which Atkins published the other day, and I was sent it by one of their guys, but he was talking about how cybersecurity is a huge threat and problem in the aviation industry, and the way that they've handled it so far is they basically said, okay, well, we're not going to connect it to the internet. As soon as we connect it to the internet, then suddenly we're like, we're opening it up to people hacking in and shutting this down.
What did people connect to the internet with great alacrity without doing the back end systems? It begins with an A, it's got a TC in it, and all around the world, lots of centres started falling over about 18 months ago, wasn't it? 2 years ago. Something it was, and somewhere Gatwick or something like that. Yeah.
Was it a drone?
Yeah.
Was it a drone?
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a drone. Don't blame the internet on drones.
I think from the UK point of view, I think from a product point of view, ID, technically, from purely technically speaking, pretty much everything sold today should be able to comply with the EU with the software update. However, we are going to be relying on manufacturers doing that and putting resources into that. And how far back will they go?
Will they do it?
You know, where is the line? And we're not talking today neither, because what they can do is sit on the fence for another 18 months. Virtually nearly 2 years on this before they actually have to do it anyway, and then anything you buy today is already 2 years old. And so, you know, I would expect them to do anything under warranty, but they're not going to want to be putting into 4 or 5 year old equipment. Retrofit should be fairly simple, although there are still 1 or 2 complexities to be solved around that, around the requirement for it to transmit the ground station location, because that is in the EU requirements as well. And whilst I was initially quite happy with the retrofit option, doing that isn't quite as simple, because there might have to actually be 2 bits to it. It might actually have to be a ground piece and an air piece, which communicates and then transmits to be able to handle that data. But it should be fairly achievable. James, you are right. It is A3. A1 and A2 are required to comply to get into the C1 and C2 are required to comply to get into the A1 and 2 category, but for A3 it isn't specifically needed yet. But who knows what's around the corner on that either.
Imagine if the government, imagine if the government came out and said, "Well, I'm sorry, but all vehicles must be compliant, and if your vehicle isn't compliant, you can't drive it anymore after 3 years."
Well,
we sort of do in the UK. We have an MOT. We sort of do have that, innit? But
Mark from sorry, I was just saying, Mark from UAV Services making good points there. The actual hijacking stuff. The man that wrote that software has been on. I've been spoken on our show in America, and if you look through our channel, you'll see one of his videos on that. And helicopters should have dual engines. That's right. Minimum performance requirements depending on where they are, central London and stuff like that. You're absolutely right. Unless you're going down the Thames. If you go down the Thames, down the H4 corridor, you can be single engine down there. But just crash in the water, obviously.
If you look at the systems, Lightbridge, it has had some open issues. OcuSync on the newer stuff is AES encrypted, as Lightbridge 2 is more secure. It's the Inspire 1 Lightbridge, which is the particularly vulnerable one. We'll have to see where all this ends up. I need to actually speak to some RAEs and find out what it's going to cost me. I should get in actually early, and I'd actually like to sit down.
I can't stand it. You can tell that people in the Civil Aviation Authority now must be youths, because RAE means the Royal Aircraft Establishment. That's what it means. It's Boscombe Down and places like that. Come on, chap.
It is, I love it's so many acronyms. What I'm going to do is take my PFCO and convert it into a GVC, but I need to go and see someone who was an NQE and that has now turned into an RAE to get my GVC. Now, I don't really need the COFC for what I'm doing, so I'm going to get the GVC. It's ridiculous, isn't it? And it's
RAE, rhinovirus everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, it's also the ham radio license in the UK. I can't remember what it stands for, but yeah. Ugh.
It is. So I need to go and see someone and con them into doing me a deal like I did last time. I was, to be fair, I think who trained me last time? Who was I trained by? Ruster. They were very good.
Anyone will love you, yeah.
Everyone who loved me, yeah. They were very good to me. So,
well, just think of it on the bright side that when you go and speak to your client, they're like, oh, this is really good. Maybe we should go and get into a drone, and you try and explain it to them with all these acronyms. They're gonna be like, yeah, we'll keep employing you.
Yeah.
we'll bring you in. That sounds confusing.
It is mad though, isn't it? You sit there and it's okay. You've got a couple. I hope this clears it up for commercial ops. What I hate about this whole thing is they've been treated like shit. Pardon my French. There has been no information from the CAA on this. They've been told to shut up and carry on, and we'll tell you when you're ready. And it's just a shame that something, yes, it's 2 years off. I know they're saying it's 2 years off, don't worry. But you can't run a business on someone saying, don't worry, in 2 years, everything's going to change. You know, you need time to understand what you're doing. And it's just a shame the way it was been done. But a few of the NQEs have stepped up. It's going to be interesting to see what this new 1789 is. A few extra things that need covering. Yeah, I suspect there is. Let's hope there's some common sense. I've got no issues sitting down for a day in a classroom. That I understand. That I got no issues doing that. You know, in the end of the day, it's always good to have a refresher. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be nuts if they're going to require you to do a flight test. I think that's a bit extreme considering you're already qualified.
Yeah, well, think about this also from a hobbyist perspective. Is actually, you know, at the moment, I would say 90% of hobbyists are flying illegally. Most people don't stick to the 150-meter rule. Most people don't stick to the 50-meter rule. Most people don't stick to the 30-meter on takeoff rule. So really, most hobbyists are flying illegally. Under the new open category, the sub 250 and the sub 900, they can actually fly pretty much as close as they want.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there will. I'm sure there will still be, you know, they'll still have to comply with, they must not recklessly endanger people or property rule, but that will be much more open to interpretation. And you know, I think most you know, how many hobbyists have actually hurt people? I don't think I've not heard of any serious cases up to now. So I think anything that can allow people to operate legally, and which will encourage manufacturers to create machines which are safer than they are today. That I think that's a positive thing. Really, commercial operations is shifting into that specific category. There will be a few operating in the open category for small, lightweight aircraft who want to just do some really basic things, you know, some basic photography or inspections or video. With very lightweight aircraft, but most commercial operators, I think, are going to be operating within that specific category.
You're very much painting the case here that the hobbyist operators really out there, and you know, we just got to watch out for them. So you're going to tell me now that, hand on heart, pinky swear, 100% of commercial operations are bob on legal in the UK? Because I would contend that anybody that properly makes money is always flying BV loss. I don't care what you say.
Or at least remember what the requirements are. 400 foot is deemed line of sight, or 400 meters, whatever it is, whichever the figure is off the top of my head, I can't remember. You know, the CA always had that figure down. Again, something you've made an interesting point there, James, about we're going to allow hobbyists more privileges than ever. Yet we're going to make commercial operators go through additional training to do what they're already doing, and it is
wealthy enough. They can afford it. They're millionaires. Come on.
So that's not true. You don't have to do a GVC. This is the thing. You only have to do a GVC if you want the privileges that the Module 1 will give you. Yeah. So you can come. You know, if your renewal comes up in August, then you'll put in your renewal pretty much identical process to what you've got now, and you will be issued, instead of it saying at the top permission for commercial operation, it will say operational authorization. That's basically the only difference. So actually there's not really a lot that's changed.
No. But all that's going to do is give me an operational authorization to fly in a congested area, basically, because the commercial aspect goes out the window, and it's an operational authorization to be able to fly an aircraft up to 25 kilos, basically in a congested area. That is the crux of this. Will basically be I'll be allowed to fly aircraft up to 25 kilos in a congested area as close as 50 meters, 30, etc., etc., etc. But people will be able to buy an off-the-shelf aircraft in the A1 category, which is sub 900 grams, and be able to fly within 5 meters of someone with basically just completing the basic current test they have today. They'll be able to go and buy a 4 kilo craft, which is Inspire 2 size, take that additional little test, which is the COFC, and do what I'm doing now.
Not quite right. Not quite right there, because they're 4 kilo aircraft.
Yes.
Currently, they don't exist yet.
No.
Yeah.
But
and they're basically going to be flying pillows. So
flying pillows.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be a flying pillow, pretty much. These newer, don't think of them as the current drones that you're seeing at the moment. These things are going to be, very much having, prop guards around them, maybe even cages around them.
Well,
like
I've not seen that
might not even be enough there. That might not even be enough. Those prop guards.
I'm not convinced. That 4 kilo category, I've read the spec for. And yes, there are certain requirements around protection, weights, joules limits, and all of that. But that's nothing major. There's nothing in there I've seen that says this, as you say, it's going to have to be a balloon, a hot air balloon or anything like that.
So just help me here a second. So we're saying that there'll be light touch regulation on something up to 4 kilo, as long as that 4 kilo thing moves slowly or is a floaty balloon or whatever.
Well,
but you don't think here that's
no. The current regulation says sub 4 kilo will be allowed to fly as close as 5 meters in slow mode or 30 meters in its normal operation mode in a congested area. There's nowhere it says it must fly outside of congested. So Mark's made a very interesting point. Actually, it's one we've brought up before, about insurance and what the insurers will be allowing people to do, because actually the hinge point here is at what point the insurers are going to step in to be able to allow you to operate commercially. Are they going to let someone in the A1 category, sub 900 grams, without a COFC or GVC operate commercially? No one really
insurance
knows.
Is a legal requirement, is it there?
It is, and it probably will still be in there, I guess, James, isn't it?
The
requirement of insurance. Well,
so it's actually interesting because the insurance requirement still refers to sub 20 kilos, not sub 25. So there isn't quite the alignment yet with those two. But that's a separate directive, an EU directive. I can't remember the number of it, but yeah, it's an EU directive for insurance for drones. So we would still have to comply with that. But I think the whole thing about, thinking that, oh, well, if you can fly 4 kilos, remember, this isn't just a hobbyist. Anyone can do this.
Yes.
The problem is these aircraft don't exist yet. They have to be built to certain standards, which are quite high. They also have to, if it were to crash into someone, it would have to ensure that person the amount of damage and that it would do to them is significantly reduced. And so I think there's still a lot of work for these companies to come up with systems that will be able to comply with this. I can't see the CAA. I don't know whether it's EASA. I think will be the CAA's interpretation. I imagine that the EASA will probably come up with an opinion or some other extension of the regulation, which will dictate as to what those requirements are. But they will still have to meet that requirement, which is going to be, I think the requirement is going to be fairly high. So I wouldn't bank on it within the next 6 months. And to be honest, really, most commercial operators will be operating in a specific category anyway. So, for the sake of doing a bit of paperwork to go and get an operational authorization, why would you not just do that? They've already got the predefined risk assessment process. At some point in the near future, they're probably going to do a reduced distance version of one of those, I imagine. So that's going to make things a bit easier from that front. I don't know what kind of timescale we'll be looking at for that, but why would you not go through that, that bit of paperwork to go and give you the permission to fly something with a bit more capability and without all of the sacrifices that you would have to make by operating in the open category? Really, I see where the open category is going to be sub 900 grams. I think once you get above 900 grams, this 5 meter, and then it goes to 30 if you're flying faster, and then you have to apply the 1-to-1 rule. You're then going to have to be, have pillows attached to it. I personally don't see it being a big thing. I think with a Mavic Pro, you can do quite a lot. and that would fall into the sub 900 category. Would a hobbyist really want to go above that? Not really. If you want to fly something commercially, why would you sacrifice the endurance by having all of this cage fitted around it and pillows attached to it? If you can just go through a bit of paperwork and get yourself a commercial, well, not a commercial permission, but an operational authorization, which is equivalent to a commercial permission. So I personally just don't see any delineation there. I think what you'll see is commercial operators moving into the specific category and hobbyists operating the open category, but more compliantly than they are today. That's where I kind of see things going. Could be wrong, ask me the same question in 2 years' time, and I don't know. We'll probably be dead from coronavirus. So
I think the technology is going to make these rules a bit out of date. I mean, you probably saw some of the footage I filmed with this thing. It's this Cine Queen. It's like in this configuration with this battery, it's about 235 grams. I get 5.5 minutes flight time. It's got a 4K camera. I was flying between people at people height. I was tracking people down a water slide at an event we had here on the weekend at cheese rolling. I was flying and people didn't even notice this thing was flying around them. It was totally safe. If I bumped into somebody, nothing would have happened. If it had fallen out of the sky, it might have landed on someone's shoe. That's about it. And the footage I got from this was really, really good. And in the coming months and years, it's going to get better and better, and they're going to get lighter. And I took 6 batteries, and I got something like about 20 minutes of video, and it's really quick to change a battery. So why do we need all these really, really complicated rules when we've got something that is effectively just a choking hazard? And I think the whole thing in New Zealand, there's no differentiation between commercial and non-commercial, because in fact the risk profiles do not change when you go commercial, non-commercial. And the regulators here have worked out that, well, it makes a mockery of things if I go and film this event, for example, that I did on the weekend non-commercially, and then someone comes along and says, oh, we want to buy that footage, suddenly it's commercial, suddenly I've broken the law. No, it's like this is the future, and this is what the rules are moving so slowly, and they're so granular that by the time all the rules come into full effect, they'll all be out of date, because people will be flying these things and getting the same sort of footage now that requires a Phantom 4 or something.
Well, I think you're quite right there, and that actually everything you stated there is pretty much what the EASA regulations have brought into force. You could fly that thing, and you don't have to apply for any permission to do that. You can fly it as close as you want to people under the EASA regulations. You can do what you want with it pretty much. So actually, under EASA, that tour you got there is you can pretty much do what you want. When you start getting up to larger aircraft with big rotors sort of whirling around, then that's where the risk starts going up, and you have to then, if you want to fly close to people, you then have to show that you've got appropriate controls in place, and you have to apply for an operational authorization. So in the open category, once anything up to 900 grams, really, you can kind of do what you want. Anything sub 250, you can definitely basically do what you want with. Anything up to 900 grams, you can't fly over people. Someone's just put Magic Pro 2, 907 grams. No existing aircraft are going to meet the open category standards. I think CA have already stated that. So anything that's going to fly in the open category is going to have to be a new aircraft. Watch DJI over the next few months, because I imagine that they've got something lined up. It's either going to be a sub 250 or a sub 900. I don't know which one, but they brought out the Mavic Mini recently. The Mavic Mini will open in the A1 transitional, which will mean that they can basically fly it as close as they want to anyone without flying over them. So the Mavic Mini will fit into that category. So yeah, I think there's not everything's good about it, but I think to be honest, the CAA have actually had quite a lot of input into the regulations. They didn't get everything they wanted, but they got a lot. They were definitely thought leaders in that process, and I think it's in general it's better than I've seen from some other countries over the pond, shall I say.
The hardware is easy. That's the reality in this. The hardware will be the easiest part of all of this. All of the manufacturers will get that No problem at all. It's the hardware. What they want to do, they'll wait for the regulation, and the hardware will catch up in a very, very short period of time. Whether it be weight, whether it be camera capability, we've seen it. DJI managed to do it with the Mavic Mini. That it was targeted at the regulation, and we will see that more and more. It is interesting to see where it ends up. We can look at different types of aircraft. Where the Mavic will sort of fall into that 900-gram area. It's a bit over now. She loses a bit of weight and she'll be there. The Inspire 2 again around that 4-kilo area, so it sort of fits in that category. And the Mini and the one below. So we've already got aircraft sort of lined up. They've all got to be tweaked. They've all got to be messed with. But it's interesting. These are all aircraft that are many years old, yet they've all lined up with the regulations very closely already.
Well, it's just going to be what the remote ID requirement is, isn't it? That's going to be that's the mystery subject a little bit now.
It is, and it's easy in the EU as long as they do what they've said they're going to do. It's easy. It really is easy. I still don't like the fact it transmits the pilot's location, and I still have fundamental issues with that. I don't particularly feel that is right, especially for commercial operators. I think there should have been, or hopefully that maybe the CAA can introduce a get out on that for commercial operators, because they will have the power to once we leave as well. And the ability to not transmit the location publicly of the pilot, I think, is an important thing. There's privacy issues, there's data collection issues. You've only got to set up a bunch of Raspberry Pis around a couple of friends' houses, and you've suddenly built yourself a nice little tracking network of how people are operating around you. And it's easily done. It's easily done, and that's valuable data.
Yes. Yeah. No doubt about it. All sorts of confusions with that. But as I said, and I've said several times, James is here, the UK does seem to lead the way with nerdy shed-based aircraft tracking, because that's the very nature of the UK to spot those numbers. But it works. It definitely works. Now, what else have we seen this week as we just go over the hour here? What else has occurred other than the general madness?
What about Altitude Angel?
Oh, what, having a chap in from another company?
Yes, AMAP indeed.
Yes.
I saw a story on some good drone website. I don't know do you know any?
Did you? I don't think such a thing exists. So I'm going to go and get the link. What I'm
interested on that story is that more of a story about Altitude Angel, or more of a story about where AMAP are?
I think it's both. I think you can read it both ways. Altitude Angel is on the rise, and AMAP is heading for the toilet.
Well, if I'm very,
and there's
very
no
honest,
toilet paper left.
And there's no toilet
So he's going to have to flush without wiping.
If the chaps at AA do happen to watch this, I actually do not like to mention that other company in SUS News, and I considered not posting that story because I even had their name in it. So they didn't have to do that. But it's very interesting. But I wonder what he brings to the party. There's only so much intelligence one can bring from another company.
I suppose it's whether they want to break out in the US, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? They
have. They already do the Lancing, or LANC, as it should really be called, and they're on the NASA gig, aren't they? They also had a gig in France, didn't they? That they're on this week. But yeah, and I see in Germany they're chucking another 3 million euros at another UTM project. It's just how many of these can stand up or be stood up until we finally say, no, this is it. This is what the communication standard is going to be, and this is how it's going to work. We can't keep every year have a new idea for it, surely, or can we just go on ad infinitum?
Yeah, it does seem mad, doesn't it? It does seem mad that we keep more and more and more.
And that GUTMA, that core group GUTMA, seems to be shrinking. There seems to be less and less of them in their industry body, and more here, there, the Polish one stood up, didn't it, last week? But I think Richard was instrumental in getting the open source message handling. I think I'm right in saying that, between each thing. But I'm not sure that everybody was keen on adopting an open source way of each UTM interacting. Funny old thing.
Well, if you look at the, so I don't know if you saw EASA released an opinion on Airspace last week, which was quite interesting. And basically, they've said that, you know, what you've got within the UTM field is this structure at the moment, which they're calling, like, I forget the acronym they used. It's something like UTC, but it's not UTC. It's basically like a core service, which is a data sharing service, which shares data between all of the different UTM providers. And then you've got the UTM service providers, which, you know, I'm kind of sort of this opinion, actually. Like, think of DJI Go as a UTM. Like, if you want traffic avoidance, if you want to avoid other air traffic, do you want two tablets there, one with the UTM system on it and one with a DJI Go system on it? Or do you want it kind of integrated together into a single view that the pilot can see? And that will provide your air traffic services, which will all be talking with other air traffic services, the UTM providers. You know, this is the kind of future which I see it as. But you know, this is very much matches sort of the view of Airspace. But they've said categorically that, you know, an information sharing service cannot be a UTM. A UTM needs to be separated from that. There needs to be an information sharing service which doesn't have a conflict of interest there. Because, you know, if I'm flying around my drone using UTM A and someone else is flying theirs around using UTM B, well, if UTM A is providing those data sharing services and they suddenly crash into each other and I own all the data, well, who's at fault in that situation? Of course, UTMB is at fault, because it's our data and we can provide the data which proves that you were in the wrong. So conflicts of interest will occur if you have a UTM provider which is also providing the data sharing services. So I think that, you know, it sounds to me that, and then this is the same. So you've got Airspace, you've got the Connected Places Catapult, who've come up with the open access framework. The NASA model is a federated model as well. So they're all kind of coming up with that same kind of architecture, which is, you know, multiple UTMs all sharing data with each other, and that's the kind of approach that we're seeing at the moment. But then there'll be all those interfaces with ANSPs as well, which becomes quite interesting. So yeah, it's all starting to come together. We're a little bit of a way there, a little bit of a way to go, but Singapore are definitely doing very well in this area. So I don't know if you've seen what's been going on in Singapore recently.
I've seen their stuff, but and thanks, Matt. You know, €20. It's very, very kind of you. Very kind indeed. Right. Yeah, but Singapore's tiny. You can chuck a rock across Singapore.
That's why it's so good. They're very free market driven, I think. But I think that they, you know, pending what happens with coronavirus, but there's kind of three competitions going on at the moment. You've got the Singapore competition, you've got the Future Flight in the UK, and then you've got the NASA competition. And they're all kind of doing the same thing. They're basically trying to make this ecosystem work. I think Singapore's probably going to be the first, UK is going to be the second, and then NASA's going to be shortly behind. But yeah, it's quite interesting what's going on out there. It's a very small ecosystem, so I think they'll probably get half of the puzzle done. But certainly the UK is looking like it's in quite a strong position, especially with its electronic conspicuity strengths, which I think a lot of other countries don't have. You know, in America, what options are there for electronic conspicuity? Well, ADS-B. You know, there's not really a lot of options there. So I think the UK is in a strong position, but obviously with coronavirus happening, it's all, who knows what's going to happen now. It's all gone a bit crazy. But you know, I suppose the UK government have an incentive to want to invigorate the UK market now, seeing as the aviation sector is pretty much collapsing at the moment. So
has crossed my mind that everywhere the drone sector is going to get a little push because a lot of those small charter companies are going to be gone. There's going to be a lot of people coming from it, but I really hope, and it's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream.
Drone tourism. That's the secret.
Drone
tourism. Actually, it's not a stupid thing. I was thinking about it the other day. There's a lot of places around here that are quite inaccessible but very picturesque. And I'm thinking, well, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could rock up to the parking lot? Everyone puts on their DJI digital goggles, and then you fly them around, and they tell you where they want to go, and you get all the aerial views, and it's fantastic, and it's completely safe, and it doesn't involve the emission of hydrocarbons and CO2, and it's environmentally friendly. You can look, but you don't touch, and people can go places they couldn't go any other way. So I think there's a potential. But I mean, yeah, why not as a way of in tourist areas? Also, people can roll up in their own individual cars, sit in their cars with their visors on, and they won't even have to exchange bodily fluids or get infected.
Again, you've heard that phrase before. But it's,
yeah. I've got a question for you guys. So where does 5G sit in all of this? Because there's so much hype about 5G and how it's going to fit into the ecosystem and solve all of our problems. Is it not just a data link?
Yes.
It is
basically just a data link. It's
just going to solve all our problems.
It is
a highly overhyped data link.
That's ridiculously overhyped. It will be faster than the data links we have today, but it will also be shorter range than the data links we have today. And it isn't going to solve every problem. We can, if the idea with 5G is this whole thought of it will connect with the world and they'll be able to replace all of these networks, but it's just hype and nonsense. And they want someone to fund the development of the hardware. So they're saying 5G will change everything. They want the money poured into it. It's Does
anyone remember the Internet of Things? The Internet of Things, wasn't it going to be a thing? It's a bit like 5G, really, but
that's gone on, isn't it? Really?
But it's the Internet of Things you can hijack to do denial of service attacks. Even light bulbs, the Philips light bulbs, you can hijack those. But I think more important than 5G is actually going to be Starlink.
Yeah, yeah. And Mark, UAV services, how busy do people think the skies actually are? But the important thing there is to put all the airliners into airways, put them closer together again, so there's a higher chance of them banging into each other.
Lots of Armco down the side. Lots of Armco, that'll keep them safe.
Yes, that's right. Otherwise, there'd be no point in going to work, would there, if you don't bring them all together first? No, you're right.
But that's interesting too, isn't it? Well, we need all this transport because people are going to learn over the next few months, hey, we can work from home. Maybe bus drivers won't be able to, but a lot of people will be able to work from home, and the need for all this travel may be significant.
What's there about Blueprint UTM roadmap? Yeah.
So on that point, how many drones are there going to be? Well, Airbus is predicting 19,000 drones an hour above Paris by 2035. Now, I don't know whether they used a random number generator in that calculation, or whether that's quite how they came to that. But I don't think it's completely unrealistic. When you think about what kind of services could be replaced by drones in the future, I think that I'll try and be optimistic about this kind of stuff, and maybe this is a little bit optimistic, but even if it's half of that, we're talking a considerable change to where we are now. The skies are going to be somewhat like Futurama, and I can imagine, I don't want to be that sort of old man who's kind of, I remember when I was a kid, and they were kind of like, the first mobile phone came out and they were like absolutely amazed by it. Let's not be that old moaning man who goes and thinks that this thing isn't going to happen. It is going to happen. It's just a case of
Airbus have used the Panuya method of getting that's plucking numbers out of your ass.
Hang on a minute. $500 a sheet. I mean, Well, all right. Let's say that's right. I mean, how hard is that for our world in 2030? Whatever it says, that won't be hard to achieve. Just as long as we've got general aviation up and out of the way, which it is anyway over the centre of Paris. A lot of light aircraft. There's no light aircraft, gliders, balloons, all that sort of thing. The interesting flying stuff. Airliners, if we need to be there, should be flying way more accurately. They should be using much less airspace. Why do they have all these fancy devices on and need quite so much skies still? They'll be flying in autonomously, semi-autonomously from a long way, having been rerouted. And that's exactly what they want to do in the UK, is have big circular approaches that they all come off in a far more efficient fashion than they currently do, rattling around those holes. So I don't think it'll take much to do that. I don't think you need a super duper fan. You need a UTM of some sort, but I don't think personally.
Well, the key point here isn't technological. The key transformation isn't a technological change that needs to happen within the aviation industry. It's a political and economic change. And what we have is a situation. This is what UTM is basically trying. It's the one problem that UTM solves is the problem of data. Whoever owns the data, and you need all of the data to be able to provide air traffic services. If you only got half the data, you've got the other half of the aircraft who are going to smash into you. So you need all of it. Now, the way that that's traditionally happened is you've split it up into airports. So you said, okay, well, ANSPX is going to be in control of these airports, ANSPY is going to be in control of those airports, and then smaller airports will look after their own ATZs, and they handle them on a geographical way. And then you've got what do they call it? Overflight services, or I can't remember what it's called, which is handled, I think, by NATS. So everything's done on basically a single operator basis. And what happens in a market where you have a single company providing a service is you don't have the kind of level of competition that you need to go and invigorate a market to develop over time. And so what UTM is really trying to do is to create a competitive market between multiple players, and that is what will create the market conditions for innovation to happen. And that's really, I think, the political change that needs to happen is you need multiple companies competing, but using the same data. So they all need to have the same data, but they need to provide services based on that data, which compete against each other. And that's the real political change that we're seeing at the moment within the aviation sector in terms of turning it digital.
But I think, well, a clever person, 'tis not I, would be able to get an area that they suggest Paris is, and then in simulation populate it with 30,000 drones and let the simulation run a bajillion times and just go on your marks, get set, go. I wonder how many would hit each other in 10, let's say 10 square kilometers. Let's put 30,000 drones in 10,000 kilometers, and let's limit them to only going up to 1,000 feet and say go in simulation. And then I wonder how many would actually hit each other in a day, in a year, in 1,000 years. Oh, is it just your?
Yeah, I'd muted myself. Let's stick you in an aircraft. We'll release 20,000 drones, and then you can tell us.
Well, no, I'll be okay, because I'll tell you why. I'll be in my aircraft. What I'll do, I'll give them up to 1,000 feet, and I'll be above 2,000 feet because #no GA below 2K. It's the centre of Paris, so I won't be there in my glider. I won't be there in my balloon. If I'm there in my balloon, it's because I will have taken a transponder and made special arrangements, or perhaps even my glider. I won't be there in my paraglider. I won't be there in my microlight. But what
about that GA aircraft who has an engine failure, or the air ambulance who needs to go and pick up a patient, or the glider who's run out of energy and needs to land in the field?
He's got bigger problems than a drone, isn't he?
That's true. Yeah, but let's take the emergency aircraft. Well, in our clever digital sky, the sea will be parted for those aircraft. But I'm just saying, just for how many would hit each other if you did that?
If the risk is too great because you've got these drones there, then the risk must be too great with bird life. you can't control drones, you can't control bird life, you can't control drones, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the risk profile. If we're prepared to accept the risk of flying in airspace where there are birds which kill people every year by collisions with aircraft, then why can't we do the same with drones?
Well, I think that's a valid argument you could make, actually. And I think, flying BVLOS with a lightweight aircraft with a few hundred grams, I think there is a use case. I think there is a case there, a safety case you could make there to say, well, actually, if I were to hit an aircraft, the damage would be very minor. The problem comes, though, is, if you suddenly say, okay, we're going to treble the amount of birds that are in the sky at any point in time, that's not presenting a very a safer environment. And so the CAA work on, we should never make the skies less safe. We should always be making them more safe. So they're never going to go backwards in terms of safety, and that's a hard wall which we're going to face.
So why don't they restrict the number of pigeon breeders within 4 miles of an airport? Because obviously that's just there we go. Pigeon breeders breed pigeons, more pigeons reduces safety.
You're now going to be getting complaints from pigeon breeders now, Gary, from all over the UK.
No, there's been reports, CAAs, because they have had races that have gone straight across big active runways and caused no end of disruption, and there is some pigeon fanciers get out clause for doing that, which no one else has got. I'll have to a good 10 years ago, I reckon there were 2 incidents where pigeon races caused airprox notifications to come up, and they have some royal decree that they can do whatever they like, just as long as you don't eat the swans or something like that.
Same would go for swan racing, wouldn't it? If you were swan racing, you'd be allowed to do it because the Queen would be involved.
Queen owns them all, exactly. It is something like that. The CAA were given a slap on the wrist. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
It's funny because there are actually solutions out there for this kind of stuff. I'll show you my screen. Oh, it's not going to work.
Well, my drone's a good solution for birds at the airport.
Have you heard of Robin Radar?
Robin Radar. No, okay.
Yeah, it's for some reason my internet's really slow at the moment. But basically, they make.
Everyone's at home working from home. The internet is actually really slow today. When I'm dealing with overseas sites, it's really slowed down. It's an effect.
I've had that conversation today, that very conversation with someone today. The internet's going to melt down.
So, yeah, well, the great thing about having a really slow internet connection here is we don't notice. It's not any slower. We're still max chat.
Pornhub is grinding to a halt.
There's an image.
Oh, hang on, let me add it. Is it a pie? I shouldn't have. I've just clicked that. Hang on. Why isn't that? I can see the image on what you're sharing with me, but it's not. Oh, we're looking into the future.
We're seeing. I had it up, but my internet connection went and died. So Robin Radar, but they do radar systems for detecting birds. But my internet is playing havoc with me at the moment.
I guarantee there'll be one down in Durban, because they built the new airport right on top of where the biggest barn swallow roost is, and yeah, they have to close the airfield there quite often. As a windmill.
Yeah, but I think they're looking at, so they're basically looking at using these systems to detect drones as well. So yeah, it's kind of like a very small. It's just a radar dish, but they're very clever in terms of categorizing what objects are. So being able to differentiate between what a drone is and what a bird is, and so the classification is actually a really difficult problem. If you can see something, from a mile away, well, what is it that you're seeing? Is it a rogue drone, or is it a bird, or is it a plane, or is it Superman?
Yes. Well, I said it before. We used to have on the at Chivener, we used to have a place on Exmoor where the trucks used to go over the top of the moor, and sometimes we get a primary radar return from a truck there with the old radars, the AR-15s. So we all had a Chinograph mark on the radar where that was. And at Lynham, there was a line on the radar where the 125 trains used to go by from London to Bristol, because then they were going fast enough that because you had a moving target indicator, so you can change the speed for so that slow moving tracks don't turn up, and those would turn the radar on for that. So yeah, it is important to know exactly what that return is, because of course you don't know exactly what that return is.
No, exactly. And I heard an interesting fact, Gary, the other day. So apparently, if you use radar and you've got windmills, apparently if a plane is behind the windmill or close to it, sometimes it can't see it because the rotors go round at the same speed. Oh, we got.
Oh yeah.
Hello.
We got. Sorry, I don't know what this is.
You carry on talking, James. You carry on talking.
Oh. So yeah, so apparently the rotors go round at the same speed at which the radar goes round, and so basically the rotors appear to be in the same position all the time, and they block out the planes behind them apparently, or they do some kind of interference malarkey. So
that's quite interesting.
Yeah,
that is quite interesting. You'd win points for that on this evening's show. That is quite. Yes,
you learn something every day, Gary.
You do. So why have we got two Ians here?
I will show you now. I'm trying to make
just
this
unlucky, I say.
I'm trying to make this actually work. Right. How does this work? You are now StreamYard is sharing my screen. So is it sharing my screen? No.
Yeah, you're there twice.
Yeah, no, it should be showing something else.
Oh, hang on. Have you done another one?
I've done it on my. So I've told it to share my screen, but it doesn't look like it's doing it. Let's have a look.
We can see two of you here.
Yeah, it's just I'm trying to tell it to share the actual screen. It did whinge at me. 1 second. I think I got to close Chrome. 1 second. Let me do that again. It's Chrome being naughty.
This is gripping, really, isn't it?
It's not working, is what it is.
It's cutting edge, isn't it? It's cutting edge. It's amazing.
It is.
Okay, we live in wonderful times.
I was just going to show your viewers something they might be interested in. If there are any Cube Pilot guys or any, right? Let's see if this works. Share my entire window. Share. Okay, I've said share and it's not working. That's bloody weird.
Hang on. Something else popped up down the bottom.
That's better. We got rid of James.
Well, that's it. Ah, right.
You're 50% of the webcast.
Back now.
How
many windows do you want, Ian?
Sorry, I can't share it on this one. I've had to share it on. Where are they? Let me kill this other one. I'll have to do it that way. No, where are they? Yes, this actually exists for anyone who is very interested and who has been waiting for this. This is the here link, and Solex, the new Solex app for it is coming with a whole.
There's another windmill.
There's a whole bunch of new features that people are going to like. Hopefully they will like. I know Philip and his team have been working very, very hard on this, and it is coming very soon. It isn't finished yet. Some of the resellers, I think, have had access to the firmware today, but it is coming.
Was that Edgware Park, the flight test?
I don't know what they do. What he's taken that one from, I'm not sure, but there's lots of nice new things coming in it, and because it's Solex, it adds a lot more features than we've seen in Q ground control and things like that as well. You're going to have some cool options around programming the buttons. You're going to be able to actually program a button to change the function of the gimbal control wheel as well, which is really nice. So you're going to be able to set the gimbal control wheel to do one thing, but press a button and it will do something else when you press that button too. And it's going to have some cool options around that. The nice thing about it is, whilst in some ways Solex it's not a backward step, but it's a restart for them on the software. Let me turn the actual unit on. Actually, you know, I could actually drive the rover around the workshop. We could actually do that live.
They've come a long way since they made those crappy carburetors, eh?
They have.
Yes.
1 second, I got to put the headset down.
And this was
we can
originally.
create a 3D model of
So-
Ian.
You what? Sorry, James.
I wonder if we can create a 3D model of Ian from like using like stereo imagery.
Stereo imaging.
You probably can, and then we could create some sort of AI system, and then we could create our own disrespectful videos of his own making, having
Crypto toilet paper.
Crypto toilet paper.
Crypto toilet paper. Oh, it's connecting. Let's have a look.
Well, that puts it's a different thing to the blockchain, isn't it? It's a toilet chain, or something. We'll think of something along those lines, aren't we?
It's just connecting. Give it a second. You can see what it does is it downloads the params at the start when it first connects.
So Ian, what does this software actually do?
So this is Hearlink. So this is a wireless controlling. James, this is 5G. You're talking about what 5G is. 5G is basically a radio control link. Okay. This is running on what we would probably call this is 4G, really. This is, well, it's LTE. They're using a form of LTE on this, so it is 4G. It is officially 4G, basically. And all 5G is going to do is allow the communication to be faster. And that's basically all it is, James. There's nothing specific in it. This allows up to a data rate. You know, this will actually show me the data rate on this is currently, uplink is 16739 kilobits a second. We're going to be able to do, in theory, gigabytes of data. And that's the theory behind 4G, and that's the theory behind it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to solve lots of magical issues. It's still going to be exactly the same as everything we've had before. It's still a radio system. It's going to be susceptible to interference. Is my camera actually on? Let's actually have a look. No, it isn't. The GoPro.
Your rover's in a climb. It's gone from 0, it went up to 80 centimeters.
It has.
It's down the room there.
Let's see if I can get the GoPro to turn on.
It's hovering.
Yeah.
It's come on, wake up, you. Let's see if it kicks. Hey, there we go. We have.
So now you can hold the rover up in one camera. Oh,
is the camera actually
blue screen?
When you picked it up, it knocked the camera.
No,
off.
it's the GoPro battery. It is. The problem is I've had to turn the battery warning off on it because it turns itself off. Don't worry, I got
This is so simple and obvious, isn't it? I mean, you can see why this is popular. Yeah,
buttery smooth.
Who needs drones?
Who
needs drones? No one needs drones.
It's like trying to push a piece of string.
If anyone's trying to get into the drone industry right now, this is a live demonstration of the issues that you will face on a daily basis.
Yeah, and this isn't even a drone.
And once he's changed over the battery, he'll realise that his SD card's full.
Yeah. No, this doesn't. I don't need an SD card in this one. Right, GoPro, are you going to play ball now? Yes, I know.
That's why I don't like flying for hours and hours and hours, because you fly for hours and hours and hours, and then you land and discover that you hadn't put the SD card in or whatever you hadn't done, you know. And then you've lost hours and hours.
Hey.
Armed. what's he going to crash?
And it's
into?
off.
This is going to be good.
It's off. Oh, it's the connection is quite laggy back. It's live.
3 days of latency later.
Yeah, there was a latency. I think the connection uplink is. It's live on my end, mind.
But you see, 5G, that latency will be much quicker.
Oh, I know why it's died. I know why the connection's died.
Why? You didn't pay your bill.
No, because I'm so close to the laptop and it's killing the Wi-Fi connection. That's what it is in the workshop. You wouldn't
frequency
normally
clash.
Yeah, see, look.
You see the remote going under the desk then? It's all here, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's R2D2.
There's R2D2. There's a Hoover. There's a Hoover in the workshop. There is a Hoover in the workshop.
He's changed.
Where is it? I'm trying to find forward. Oh, we've lost the battery. Oh God, I've thrown a battery.
And by the way, Ian is available for hire for your drone.
I am available for hire. I am available for dodgy.
Well, what do you think that is on the left-hand side? What's he got that?
What's that then? What's that?
Ear trumpet.
1 second, let me just put the battery back in the
trumpet for when his hearing aid fails.
Yeah.
Ian, is that a dead body under your desk?
That, Gary, that
Yes.
is the best tool you will ever find for focusing a camera. That what that is. Let me pick it up. You mean this thing?
Yes.
This is a Bowen's mount holder for a light, a studio light. But it is the best tool you can ever have for focusing a camera because it's got a little rough surface inside. I don't know if you can see it very easily. And when
I've
you
heard
try to
that said
focus,
about Bruce.
yeah, he's got a
Yeah,
rough surface,
yeah.
and when you focus a camera, it bounces off that amazingly. The focus assist on cameras that have the color, the blue, the reds, it loves that surface. So I always keep that next to my desk when I'm making a video, so I can just toss it on the desk roughly where I will be, and then focus the camera, because I always do all my videos manually focused because I don't.
Couldn't you just wear it on your head?
It can. You wanted me to do that, then, didn't you, Bruce? So it's so. Yes, but we have Solex for Hearlink, and it's coming. It's arriving. That's the underneath of my desk. Look, you can.
Yeah,
It's quite exciting.
Yeah.
There is a CNC machine over there. Look, there's a lot of junk.
It's good, isn't it, that you've probably got £2,000 worth of equipment for you to drive us around underneath chairs. It's really. You can keep
rupture the IPA bottle and let the solid wood burner set the whole place on fire.
It would be, yeah.
But it's past the wife, then fair play.
But
well done.
All 5G is going to do, James, is just make this a bit
less reliable.
Potentially, yeah. There's no magic.
Impossible. You couldn't get any less reliable than that.
No,
I'm being critical there.
Reliable, wasn't it?
But no, so we do have Solex coming for the Hearlink, Gary. It is nearly here.
That's a bumpy floor. Look at the altitude going up and down by about 10 centimeters.
Yeah, it's not configured well at all. It's not configured well at all, that thing. It really isn't. But
are you allowed to drive that beyond visual line of sight without a permit or something?
I can do whatever I want with it. So it's my land, I suppose. If I can make it, I still want to do a full rover drop. I've always wanted to build like a big hex, fly it into somewhere, drop it, go on a mission, pick it back up, and then fly off again. Something I still want to make happen.
That sort of was the Outback Challenge this year, which unfortunately they've had to postpone, haven't they? But in light of the current situation, along with a lot of other things, so that is a shame, because that was basically this year's Outback Challenge task.
They cancelled Warbirds over Wanaka, our biggest air show as well.
Yeah. All our sports cancelled here, as well as schools.
Well, to be honest, as a Norwich City fan who are currently 20th in the Premier League,
you can cancel away.
That's the highest position ever, isn't it?
Cancel. So the talk is at the moment that they're not going to relegate any teams, and Liverpool will win the title, and then they'll just bring up 2 teams from the Championship. So we basically get a free season. So, looking at the bright side of life, things couldn't be better if you're a Norwich City fan.
Are they actually saying they're going to do that, James? Is that the plan? Is it? Yeah, so far.
Well, I don't know whether you can plan anything at the moment. It's but all I know is you can't play football over Google Meet or Skype. So
they can use FIFA, can't they? Isn't that FIFA game? Couldn't you do it all through the computers?
Yeah.
So which one of the YouTube celebrities on this show is going to be the first to go set out and say I've got coronavirus? Because it does seem to be the celebrity thing right now as well.
We've only got one celebrity. Well done, well volunteered, Bruce. Very good.
When are you announcing your infection, Bruce?
No, I can't. I'm one of the at-risk categories. If I get it, I'll die apparently because I'm over 65. Yeah, and they'll leave me on the side of the road there. They won't even bother to try and resuscitate me.
That's 80 in Italy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Weren't they talking about 70 in the UK or something? Wasn't there something going to be there?
It's high risk. It obviously it is wiping out 1 or 2 here and there. As Gary was talking about genetic cleansing earlier in the darker part of the
what is it? What doesn't kill you only pisses you off.
Yeah, it's if I do have to self-isolate in my bunker, I'm going to go to hourly video logs. I've decided if I do have to do it, and
then the rest of us will just kill ourselves. So.
Yeah, but just remember, the 5 years ago we sat in more fun. No, what's it? When was the first Big Brother? 10 years plus ago, probably 15 15 years ago, everyone sat in front of the tellies and go, "Oh, we're going to watch an experiment where these guys lock themselves in a building for the next week." They basically self-isolated. So we're just playing a big game of hide and seek or Big Brother. That's all it is.
And that's why I don't watch reality TV.
Wow. Yeah, it was definitely affecting lives. It's moving markets. It's going to
markets.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
No, but it's going to. I think it might give our industry, the drone industry, a little bit of a push. Suddenly, cargo stuff will be more
But
realistic.
in which direction? That's the question.
Interesting, isn't it, that Amazon and Google and all that aren't saying, please pick us, we've got just the gear, we'll be able to. They're not rushing their services out, are they? They're not.
But what are they going to do? If there's no one working in warehouses filling boxes, what are you going to deliver? And it's like, the whole thing grinds to a halt. There's just no demand for anything. Although Amazon employing an extra 100,000 people or something worldwide to meet the demand for people shopping online because they can't shop at the local store.
Yeah,
wow.
Amazon are going to benefit from this massively, as are probably service providers. You say it's interesting. You say we haven't seen like Sky saying we're going to give Sky Movies for everyone in the UK for 3 months for free or anything like that. They're all sitting very quietly,
All the just about all the education teleworking software stuff is going here. Have a big free trial because of course they are wanting to get us all hooked, ready for when it's gone away. But yeah, there's loads of services available if you're an educator. That's how I spent my day making little videos to remind my colleagues of how to set their classrooms up.
Well, I had a sore throat yesterday, so I'm probably immune by now. So I'm a survivor. I think either that or I just had like a sore throat, one of the two. So but you should probably wear your face mask now. But yeah, I had a sore throat yesterday, so I'm being in London. I did have a bit of a panic attack, and I was like, yeah, I've just got a sore throat. But the good news is tomorrow I will be selling my blood on eBay for £100 a milliliter. So I'm hoping to sort of get myself through this crisis by selling my antibodies. So it should be okay.
There's good money in drug testing right now. $5,000 a pop they are offering for people to come and try drugs.
Really?
Well, that reminds me.
You have to bring your own papers and syringes.
Well, I live in northwest London, so I'm sure we'll find plenty of opportunists for that. Can I show you something quickly? I've got.
Well, I don't know. No. Yeah, I mean,
depends if you can top driving a Rover around the floor of a workshop, James.
Can you? So
is it down there? Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes.
So the drones from China, which were like, I don't know what they were actually doing, but they're meant to be like spraying, disinfecting the streets, or I don't know what they were doing. But they've basically got this like anti-coronavirus spray on them. There's one in the UK now, apparently. So we just need about another 850,000 of them, and we should just about be able to cover like half of the country.
Yes, a few car parks. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, that's always been my thought about that. So even the crop spraying, it's my thought on that as well. It's just, well, how could you possibly do the acreage that they do here? They fly all day with the Pawnees when they're going here, and it is
That's the new DJI product, the Agris Corona version.
Agris Corona. Yeah, we've got the spraying drones. There's a large number of them. Ben up in 3DXR has been building a couple for years. You've got the DJI Agris, which is the big one, or the Agras, or whichever way they call it. The tech is fairly simple and easily done now, isn't it?
Yeah, but is it effective? Is it what we need? That ground-based robot that we had on, they zap the weeds with electricity, which seems a much better way to go, and they're much closer to the weeds. So yeah, it's more accurate than the crop duster. But
we might be able to curry some favour with the Airline Pilots Union now as an industry, because we can offer them the ability to work from home.
Yeah, I think drones are the least of their problems right now, isn't it?
Well, not really, because the last airline standing is going to be able to charge a fortune. I heard I was chatting with a chap last night who's a pilot for who's the airline that turned around from Spain? Jet2, is it? Yeah, that's Jet2. And he was telling me how the Belfast to Belfast Aldergrove, because Flybe went, and then all this kerfuffles happened. That went from a £60 flight to a £900 flight. So the last airline standing will be able to make a fortune, won't they?
That is a lot of money in it.
It's interesting too that with all these passenger flights being sort of reduced, actually just getting stuff delivered like that you order online is very difficult, because a lot of that freight comes in the cargo hold of these airliners apparently.
Yeah.
And, unless you go DHL or FedEx with their own planes, but a lot of the airmail stuff, it just, there's no room for it. So
yeah,
you can order your
they
stuff.
just stack it there, don't they, until there's a hole, and then it just goes in as it goes along, isn't it? They have some really cheap options that if the flight's got an empty carriage slot, they'll just drop a container in and ship it to the relevant country.
Which just shows what a connected, disconnected world we live in. Connected for things, disconnected for people. Although too many people are collecting at the moment, and that's why everyone's getting them. Anyway,
Ian's right. He's got his 3D printer. He can just order the file and print his own anything. He's good.
Not quite. I've had to order a camera for that thing, so I couldn't print that. But I'm waiting from China for that, so I'm wondering how long that's going to take. Actually, I'm quite intrigued to see when that turns up.
Well, our post office is refusing to handle packages from China, so it's a quite easy.
Okay.
They're all stacking up. What's coming is stacking up in a big warehouse in Johannesburg, and this happened. It tends to happen every Christmas that there's lots of strikes, and then everything gets nicked out of the warehouse for Christmas.
That's the place you live, Gary, isn't it?
I'm going to cough all over that demo camera, and they probably won't want it back.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You're getting a special camera from Panasonic, aren't you?
You've got it.
It's already here. It's already here. Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. So I'll just sneeze on it, and it'll never go back.
It's good. It's good how James can just slide around like that, and he's not in
wheels, right? He's in London.
If he's sliding that much, does he need some of this?
Is he a Dalek or something like that? Is he actually Davros? Is he really
Davros? That's who he is. Don't drink it. We told you don't drink it.
Have you seen a downturn in work? Are you, because obviously you got your business. Have you seen anything downturn?
I'm on mute. To be honest, like it's probably come at a good time because I'm like overloaded at the moment. But not really, because a lot of the stuff I do is remote anyway. I'm doing conference calling all the time. So I'm hoping actually that people are kind of like, okay, well, what do I do when I'm not flying? Well, let's go and get some paperwork done. Let's go and sort out all the things that I've been meaning to do for a long time and not being able to do. So, you know, I think it's a good time to sort of invest in your business and sort of take it up a notch. You know, if you can't fly and you're not doing jobs, then maybe yourself a springboard to that next stage when floodgates open again. I don't think this is going to last that long. I think we're looking at sort of somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. You know, if you look at what happened in China and stuff, you know, once you've kind of got like a decent proportion with a bit of immunity, I think we'll start seeing things open up again, and people will be keen to crack on. You know, I don't think any companies out there are going to sort of just come in.
That's the end of them. Well, we get special stickers that say immune, so we can go out in public proudly and wander around without fear of being, you know, treated like a zombie. like James there.
Like James, yeah.
It strikes quickly. This virus strikes incredibly quickly.
Very quick.
The effects are obvious.
It's instant.
Is he coming back?
He's got words
back.
too. Oh no.
Oh,
he's back.
You can't say that about him, Gar. Oh,
well, they can.
You offended him. You see, he's gone away. He slipped on his little hand sanitizer.
So, do I need to harass Panasonic to send me one of these to have a look at? Is that what I need to do now, Bruce?
I'll let you know in a week when I've had more time to play with it.
Okay, good.
And speaking of playing with it, James is back.
I don't even want to know what you guys were talking about while I was gone, to be honest with
you. Very canny to be thinking along those lines, James. Very canny.
No, but yeah, in answer to your question, you know, obviously is going to be a dip. I think everyone's going to see a bit of a dip, but I'm hoping that actually that will give me a chance to catch up with things. And you know, I've got other things going on, which, you know, big news to be released hopefully within the next few months. So, but we'll wait for that for the moment.
Did you go to Spain to the air traffic conference? You were going to go.
No, so they closed that down. The World ATM, yeah, WATM. Yeah. They closed all that down, and unfortunately, my colleague had actually cancelled. Had actually already bought his tickets. So luckily for me, I do everything at the last minute. So from that perspective, it worked to my advantage. But yeah, I think there was a lot of. It was weird because like there were so many people who had sort of obviously planned it all out, and you kind of think they sort of cancelled it. I think literally about 4 or 5 days before the actual event. So other conferences had sort of cancelled it sort of 4 or 5 weeks in advance. So they kind of left it a little bit to the last minute. But I've got a conference actually in Beijing in May that they've sort of they're actually paying me. They're actually paying all my expenses to go over there. So the first conference in my life, they're going to send me somewhere for free, and it's probably going to get cancelled because of coronavirus. So that's what you call bad luck. But yeah, I think the conference market is probably getting hit quite hard right now, I imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen though? There's a new conference coming up in the UK. The commercial UAV show seems to be gone now. I can't remember what it's called, the new one. I'll have to let me have a look.
Oh, but I've missed that. Okay, Terrapin gone then? Have they, or
I don't know.
Terrapin were going to pull out of all drone conferences. I'd heard everywhere.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't remember. I've got it here somewhere. It's around here. But yeah, there's a new conference that's come out now, which is going to be the biggest apparently in the UK. So it's replacing a commercial UAV show.
Well, I'm wondering if
DroneX. Yeah,
I'm wondering if Farnborough is going to happen, because of course I always come to Farnborough, and I always consider that to be the biggest drone conference actually, but. Because Farnborough is somewhat bigger than any of these others, but yeah, that's July, isn't it? So I wonder if DroneX.
Can't even find that.
Isn't it that fancy new drone that I'm reviewing at the moment? DroneX.
And yes, and did we?
Yes.
I actually got an advert for one of those dodgy drones in my feed, full of all the standard. Oh, they couldn't believe it was so good, and it was amazing. And engineers from. He's done it again. There we are. Who says?
So yeah, there's
Wing Parrot. Oh, Airspace. Never heard of her. That's why you've got that.
So yeah, so apparently it's going to be the new commercial UAV show.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened at the commercial UAV show, but sorry, say again.
Is it going to be London or Birmingham?
London Excel. London Excel. Okay. Yeah. So March next year. So we'll hopefully towards the end of the coronavirus issue by then.
Okay. So you found out. So who is it? That's interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's his media pack, isn't it, from Airspace? That's why he's got it, and none of the rest of us have. He's just shared a secret. We know now.
So I'm assuming the Terrapin show won't happen in November then.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I heard they were stopping all shows, all drone shows. I heard they were stopping all of them worldwide. That's what I heard. But you know, who am I to know? Because they've not been.
You've seen the commercial. The thing, I think the thing is with the commercial UAV show is like if you just look at commercial UAVs, it's not. I don't know whether the market's yet big enough to support a big conference. I think we went through that spike where sort of everyone was out there trying to win work, and basically you're trying to sell to your competitors. And I think people realize that they're basically going to a show to sell to their competitors. But I think DroneX is very much more spread around, you know, is a bit more diverse. It's not just looking at sort of drone operators, it's looking at sort of the wider ecosystem. So yeah, who knows how it's going to turn out, but it looks cool. It's got a good name, so you know.
Yeah, that's all we can do really, is see what happens, isn't it?
Well, if Farnborough's on, the SUS News portion at Farnborough will be in the executive suite, which is, you know, that double-decker bus. It's a beer bus. It'll be there. That's where it will be. I'll be in front of the beer bus with some chips. That's where my stand will be. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Does that mean that we get a free invitation, Gary?
Oh yeah. If I'm still sober, it all got a bit messy last time. Actually, it wasn't the best, and I did manage to wipe 2 SD cards of stuff I'd taken there. Because a few fellows I know of old, a few dear friends, and I had a few sweet sherries, and it was it all did get a bit messy. But anyway, that's another story. Another story altogether. Look, we're definitely in waffle mode. Do we try and extend it 6 minutes to go to 2 hours, or do we just give up now? I say we probably give up now. So, does anyone else have anything else before we go?
I've got one more little thing actually, which is looking to be quite an interesting one. I'm not sure how much I can say about this, but do you know Commit? Have you heard of Commit? COMIT. So, looking at doing some form of drone survey accuracy competition.
Oh, good.
So the whole idea at the moment is that businesses don't trust data accuracy at the moment, and there's so much variability between providers. And so what we're trying to do is put together a competition which will allow operators to come in and prove what kind of accuracies that they can achieve from their drone data. So I'm sort of helping to coordinate some of that at the moment, but that's looking like quite an interesting competition. And yeah, certainly, you know, big up to Tony Shooter, who's sort of helped put that together from Commit. And yeah, sort of, I think that's one of the big challenges at the moment. Is it's all well and good having the technology, it's all well and good having the, you know, the drone and the camera which can take the photos, but unless you know what to do with it and how to turn those photographs into something that's actionable and to actually answer a question, really you've got a drone and a camera, and that's it. So it's trying. I think it will help to encourage some drone operators to sort of, I suppose, upskill themselves, and it will also help hopefully encourage some survey construction type companies to drone themselves. So kind of making the two ends meet a little bit better than they do at the moment. So yeah, that's quite an interesting project. So keep your eyes open for that.
That's a very good idea. I guess that's probably going to be held back by current world events.
Yes, probably. Yeah.
Shame, man. All right then, going once, going twice. I'm going to put this up and thank Matt. Oh, Matt only comes up in small. Thank you very much, Matt. That's very kind of you. Not the first time we've done that, so thank you very much indeed. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, whatever craziness is happening, have enough toilet rolls in your life. That's mainly the most important.
He's wasting it.
You see, that's what's the main problem. That's what's wrong with the world.
I want to see him doing snow angels.
The wealthy he doesn't care about humanity. He just conspicuous wealth. He
shits all over the dreams of the rest of the world.
And then he wipes it up. Again.
We want to see you doing snow angels in rolls of toilet roll, Bruce, on the floor.
Wherever you are in the world, guys, just be careful, be safe with your families. Hopefully the hysteria doesn't drag you in too much, well, maybe we'll see you all next week.
If we survive
from our hospital beds. Yes,
from our hospital beds. Yeah. So be careful, everybody. 2100 GMT next week. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks very much.
Is that you, Osama? Is that you?
Yeah. No, that's it's another big.
I was going to say something, but I better not. No.
Yeah. Take care, everyone. See you next week. Cheers, eh? Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, the second button. It's got